Saya admit ya.
Nanti kasih ini ya. Okay. We start now. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our international seminar this morning. I'm Meita Tengkeng from SNP Indonesia. So we will have the seminar online this morning, and we will talk about adolescent nutrition in Indonesia, what we have learned, to discuss about the review that has been conducted by IFPRI, International Food and Policy and Research Institute. Next. So before we start, there are several things that we need to present and inform to you, so it can help us to follow the seminar smoothly. First, all of this seminar will be recorded, and we are present lively through Voice for Change Partnership Indonesia YouTube channel. And for the participants, we not allow you to activate your microphone or video without permission from the event manager. We will provide e-certificate for the participant who stays minimum 30 minutes during this seminar. We are providing the facilities for interpretation. So for those who prefer to follow this seminar in Bahasa Indonesia, please to have a look on the bottom side of your screen, and there is a interpretation mode message, and then please to choose Japanese, and please also to mute your original audio. While for the participants who chose to follow this seminar in English mode, you can choose English mode in the interpretation mode, and please also to mute original audio. We have interpretation facilities, and also we have sign language interpretation for those who need this assistance. For the participant who wants to raise a question, please to write your question in the chat box with the format name, underscore institution, underscore location or country, underscore to speaker 1 or 2, underscore your question. And please to send the question via chat box to Q&A and comms. And if you have technical issue, please to chat privately to event manager or the host of this event today. For this event today, we will, and also 2 social media posts that you post on our social media, Twitter, SNP Indonesia. We will wait for 24 hours. So you need to follow our social media account. And then you can post in our social media, and then we can see who has the best post. So the rundown for meeting this morning, first we will have a short introduction from the moderator. And then we will have opening speech from our program manager of Voice for Change Partnership Indonesia. And we will have a presentation from our colleagues from IFPRI. We have Dr. Diana and we have Ara. And we have three person that we will give their valid input and respond to the presentation of the IFPRI. So we will have Ibu Dian Dipo, the Director of Community Nutrition of Ministry of Health Indonesia. We will have Mr. Joni Atopah from Bapelitbangda Provinsi Entity, and we will have Ibu Isma Stalpers, our Country Director of Indonesia, SNV Indonesia. And then we will have a response from IFPRI, and then we will have Q&A session, and then closing statement. Next, please. So I would like to inform everybody about SNV and the Voice for Change Partnership Program. So SNV is a Netherlands development organization established in 1965. And we have been working in more than 30 countries in the world. In Indonesia, we have started our activities since 2013, and we are working in agriculture, was nutrition and food and nutrition security issue in several provinces like in Entity or East Nusa Tenggara, West Nusa Tenggara, in Sumatra, and in West Java. Voice for Change Partnership Program is a program that is a global program of SNV. We have started this program from 2016 and will end this December 2020. So this is a global program that implementing in 6 countries, including Indonesia. This program is funded by DGIS, and we are partnering with International Food Policy Research Institute, or IFPRI. And in Indonesia, we're also partnering with 9 civil society organizations, and they are working in 5 districts, 9 districts in 4 provinces, and they are implementing various evidence-based advocacy in the area of food and nutrition security and also water, sanitation, and hygiene. So now I will hand over to my program manager, Pak Husnul Maat, to give his opening speech for us. Pak Maat, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, May. Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to say thank you and welcome to Ibu Dr. Dian Dipo, Director of Community Nutrition of Ministry of Health Republik Indonesia, Bapak Joni Atupah dari Bapelitbangda Provinsi NTT, Ibu Ismen Stalper, our Country Director of SNV Indonesia, and our colleagues from Southeast Asia country, from Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, and all participants from NGOs, UN agency, embassy, universities, and our government partners. Second, I would like to say thank you to our colleagues from IFPRI, Dr. Dian Ulni and Arago, from the Poverty, Health, and Nutrition Division of International Food Policy Research Institute, for your time today to presenting the result of desktop review on adolescent nutrition in Indonesia. As a background, through this program, we conduct more than 9 research with IFPRI and also series of capacity building on research-related topic to support our program to conduct evidence-based advocacy at district, provincial, and at national level. We know that adolescent is very important as representing huge number of population in Indonesia. It represents more than 20 to 30% of population. So it's around 50 to 60 million people. Yeah? But somehow this big population is being neglected at policy and program level. The majority of the nutrition program focus around the first 1,000 day of life, focusing on mothers and children. But as we all know, based on several research and evidence, targeting adolescent is very important to cut the malnutrition cycle. The high rate of malnutrition in adolescent will directly contribute to increased morbidity and mortality rates that associated with the pregnancy and delivery, and also will increase the risk of delivering low birth weight babies. So addressing the nutrition need of adolescent could be very important step toward breaking the cycle of malnutrition and also breaking the cycle of the poverty in Indonesia in the future. Through our program, we put adolescent as an important component and player in advocacy activities. For instance, in NTB and NTT, we enable the youth and millennials to provide input and feedback to the draft of provincial and district food and nutrition action plan. Voice for Change program also soon will launch activities that actively involve millennials and youth to find out solutions on food and nutrition security problem in Indonesia, such as we will conduct social entrepreneurship innovation competition, national millennial nutrition research challenge, and also we challenge the youth in eastern of Indonesia to grow their own food, yeah, that enable them to find and promote the local food during the COVID-19. And also we'll conduct the food champion roadshow from millennials and youth to inspire other youth and millennials to take action on food and nutrition security problem in Indonesia. In this webinar, we will hear from IFPRI the result of this review on adolescent nutrition policy and program in Indonesia to understand the context and to find out the recommendation on important aspects that need to be addressed to improve the future policy and program on adolescent nutrition in Indonesia. We are very looking forward to hear the presentation from IFPRI College and also looking forward to have the inspired discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Maat. Very inspiring opening speech, yeah, and I hope that it can stimulate our thoughts so we can have further discussion after the presentation and also response from our respondents. So as per mentioned before by Pak Maat, in our partnership with IFPRI, IFPRI has supported us in conducted several research in food and nutrition security issue. One of the research that has been conducted last year is they did a review on adolescent nutrition program and policy in Indonesia. And today we will hear for them what they have learned and what they have found about adolescent nutrition in Indonesia. So before I hand over to our speaker, I would like to introduce first about our two speakers. We have Dr. Diana Olney. She is our first speaker today, and she is a senior research of IFPRI on Poverty, Health, and Nutrition Division. She also served as a team leader for nutrition sensitive program in IFPRI and a flagship leader within CGIAR research program on agriculture for nutrition and health led by IFPRI. She has led several comprehensive evaluation of nutrition sensitive programs in Asia, Africa, and Central America to examine what impacts multi-sectoral nutrition sensitive programs have on maternal and child health, nutrition, and well-being outcomes, how impacts are achieved, and in some cases, at what cost. In addition, Diana has worked closely with several organizations such as Helen Keller International and the World Food Programme to help them redesign their program to increase nutrition impact across the life cycle. Diana has a PhD in nutritional biology from the University of California, Davis, with a designated emphasis in international nutrition. Our second speaker today is Arago. She is a program manager in Poverty, Health, and Nutrition Division in IFPRI, and she coordinates and facilitates research activities on gender, women's empowerment, and nutrition-sensitive program, among others. Prior to joining IFPRI, she worked with USAID Bureau for Food Security as a gender program analyst. And she's providing technical assistance to USAID missions and partners on gender and food security. She has a background in gender and public health. So can we go to the slide of the Ara and Diana? Yeah, prior to their presentation, I would like to share several discussion points that we need to pay attention on, so this can help us to follow the presentation and can have any idea during the discussion later on. So we would like to know from our presentation, are there any important differences across regions that should be specifically addressed? And are there any subnational policies and guidelines on adolescent health and nutrition? The third, is there any new policies or program designed to improve adolescent nutrition in Indonesia that were not captured in their presentation? And the last one, are there any other suggestions to improve adolescent nutrition? What are the key factors for success? For example, political commitment and multi-sectoral collaboration. These are the discussion points that hopefully can help us to follow the presentation from Ara and Diana. So now I will let Diana and Ara to present your presentation. You have 35 minutes maximum to present. Please go ahead, Ara and Diana. Hello, Ara, Diana. Hello.
Hi, thank you. I was muted. Thank you, May. And thanks for the introduction. We're really happy to be able to join all of you today and in this presentation and to share the findings from the research we did reviewing adolescent nutrition in the context of Indonesia and the policy environment within Indonesia, to review the programs and policies that are available to support adolescent nutrition. So thanks. Next slide. So just to give you an overview of the presentation today, first, we'll be talking about the background and the objectives of the review. Second, we'll talk a little bit about the major nutritional issues facing adolescents in Indonesia. And then we will present a review of existing policies and programs in Indonesia. And then we will move to discuss some international and regional evidence for promising practices, so that maybe there are some things that we can learn from those practices that could be applied in the Indonesian context. And then we'll offer some concluding thoughts. Next slide. So adolescents are very vulnerable to poor nutrition. For the purpose of our review, we considered adolescents to be children in the ages of 10 to 19 years of age. So this is the definition that the World Health Organization uses, and it's a pretty common definition. However, sometimes adolescents and youth are grouped together, and that goes up to about age 24. And then you can have younger adolescents, which are generally considered to be 10 to 14 years of age, and then older adolescents, who are 15 to 19 years of age. So we are including both the older and younger adolescents in this presentation. So adolescence, as defined by this 10 to 19 years of age, is an important developmental time with increased nutritional demands, primarily related to growth. Inadequate diets and activity, along with diseases, can compromise optimal growth during this time period. For girls, undernutrition in adolescence can also have intergenerational effects, meaning it can affect not only the girl herself, but also any children she may have. Next slide. So since this is an important developmental period, adequate health and nutrition during adolescence can help mediate any early nutrition insults. So as Ahmad mentioned, the first 1,000 days is an important time in children's development. And in Indonesia, it is a strong focus of health and nutrition interventions. However, many children are still left with nutritional problems as they age out of the early infancy and early childhood period. And so adolescence represents a second opportunity to address those early nutrition insults. In addition to being an important time to intervene and improve health and nutrition, adolescents are also becoming independent. They're open to new ideas, and it's a good time to try to influence healthy practices. So as adolescents are learning how they want to live their lives, it's a good time to teach about good practices for health, for physical activity, for diets, many behaviors that can last a lifetime. Addressing nutritional problems during this time can help prepare adolescent girls for healthy pregnancies, which in turn could reduce undernutrition of their children. Next slide, please. To date, very few policies and programs have been designed and implemented to improve adolescent nutrition in low and middle income countries. This is also true in developing, in high income countries. Adolescence, as Maud mentioned, has often fallen by the wayside and not been recognized as a vulnerable group. However, increasing evidence shows that adolescents are a nutritionally vulnerable group and therefore should also be a focus of programs and policies to help improve their health and nutrition during the adolescent period. So because this has been a time in life that is not a focus of nutrition programs and policies, there's little evidence on how to address the health and nutrition needs of adolescents from program effectiveness studies. In order to adequately address the health and nutrition issues of adolescents, we need to have a clear understanding so that of what the problems are and how they can be addressed effectively, so that we can develop appropriate policies and programs to improve adolescent health and nutrition. Next slide, please. So within Indonesia, there is a double burden of malnutrition, and this exists among Indonesian adolescents. With the double burden of nutrition, it's a situation in which you have both problems of undernutrition, like wasting, stunting, micronutrient deficiencies, anemia, but also problems of what can be called overnutrition or overweight, obesity, or non-communicable diseases like diabetes and hypertension. And so in Indonesia, problems with undernutrition, including those micronutrient deficiencies and anemia, continue to be problems among Indonesian adolescents. But overweight and obesity are posing increasing challenges, and they're increasing, and the prevalence of these issues is increasing rapidly. In addition, within this context, poverty remains a problem, along with increasing economic inequality. Next slide. So for the first nutritional problem, we'll look at the prevalence of anemia among Indonesian adolescent boys and girls. And this comes from a survey that included boys and girls between the ages of 13 and 18 years of age. And what we can see from this slide is that anemia is more prevalent or more common among girls, with about 23% of adolescents being anemic, adolescent girls that is. And about half of that, about 12% of adolescent boys are also anemic. So even though it is more common among girls, anemia is still a problem among some boys. And anemia can lead to problems with energy and with health and nutrition. Next slide, please. So some of the primary causes of anemia include inadequate intake of micronutrients, such as iron and folate, B12, excessive blood loss, which can happen when women are menstruating. It can come from helminth infections, infectious diseases, such as malaria is a very common cause of anemia. And it can also come from genetic disorders, which means it's something that you're born with. And in general, as we could see from the previous slide, women are generally at higher risk of being anemic. And this is primarily due to menstruation, pregnancy, and childbirth, which can produce another key time when there's excessive blood loss. Next slide, please. Some of the primary causes or consequences of anemia include tiredness and weakness. So just not feeling good, feeling lethargic. It can also cause problems with physical, cognitive, and behavioral development. And this has been seen very commonly with young children, but it can also pose a problem for adolescents. Reduced energy levels can also affect productivity and what is called work capacity, so the body's ability to produce energy. And this can also affect lifetime earning potential. And this is very commonly found with the type of work that requires physical effort. So thinking of agriculture or things like that that require physical labor. If you're anemic, that causes you to be very weak. It means that you may not be able to produce enough and may not be able to work efficiently. And so that can affect your earnings. In addition, for women, anemia can cause negative birth outcomes. It can lead to preterm delivery, so it can mean the baby comes too early. It can also lead to low birth weight of the baby, so the baby is too small. It can also increase the risk of morbidity and mortality for anyone, for women, for men. Anyone who is anemic and becomes severely anemic is at increased risk of being sick and of dying. Next slide, please. Next, we'll look at the prevalence of stunting among Indonesian adolescents. And for those of you who are not familiar with that word, being stunted means being too short for your age. So not being tall, basically. But it's more than not being tall, it's being much too short for your age. And so on this slide, we're looking at the prevalence of stunting among adolescents 13 to 15 years of age, which could be considered the younger adolescents, and among adolescents 16 to 18 years of age. And we have two categories here. We have severely stunted and stunted. So stunted is less than -2 standard deviations below the mean for age. And severely stunted is -3 standard deviations. So in Indonesia, what we see is that among young adolescents, the prevalence of severe stunting is about 14%, whereas the prevalence among older adolescents is only about 8% or 7.5%. When we look at the more general category of stunting, which is the -2 standard deviations below the mean, there's a prevalence of about 21% among younger adolescents and a prevalence about 24% among older adolescents. So as you can see, almost a quarter of Indonesian adolescents are stunted. And often this develops in early childhood and just remains throughout. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, we have this problem of the double burden of malnutrition in Indonesia. So we've discussed the problem related to anemia. We've discussed the problem related to stunting. And now we will look at problems related to weight. And with the problems of weight, we have adolescents who are too thin or too small again in terms of weight for their age. And then we have adolescents who are too heavy. Sorry, this is not for age. This is too thin for their height and too heavy for their height, right? So for severely thin and thinness, we're looking at the body mass index, which is height, which is the weight divided by the height. So in Indonesia, we can see that about 8% of adolescents are too thin. And among those, about 3% of younger adolescents and 2% of older adolescents are severely thin, meaning they're very malnourished. On the other hand, we see the prevalence of overweight is about the same as it is for thinness. So about the same proportion of adolescents that are too thin are too heavy. And we have the same problem with obesity, which again is an extreme form of overweight. So as you can see in Indonesia, the problems of underweight and overweight are very similar. And we have this picture here below to kind of give you an idea of what we mean by the scale of thinness to overweight and obesity. So on the far left here, you have being way too thin, being severely thin. And on the far right, you have obesity. And in the middle is the more normal weight, thin, and somewhat overweight. Next slide, please. So next we want to look at some of the trends in the changes in underweight, overweight, and obesity over the last 15 years or so. So as you can see from the first slide, we look at this for underweight, or sorry, for the first graph is the prevalence of underweight, and we have this for both boys and girls. So the orange line represents boys, and the blue line represents girls. So as you can see, in 2000, the prevalence of underweight was 34% for boys and 45% for girls. Very high. Nearly half of the girls in Indonesia were underweight in the year 2000. This has decreased over the last 20 years or so, and as of 2016, the prevalence of underweight among girls was 36%, still nearly a third of girls. And then the prevalence of underweight among boys decreased only from 34% to 30%, so not much change. And I should note that this is not just adolescents, this includes young children. These are children between the ages of 5 and 19 years of age. So this is not just adolescents, it includes all children. At the same time, the prevalence of overweight has been increasing quite rapidly. And again, we have the orange line, which is the boys, and the blue line, which is the girls. And between 2000 and the year 2016, the prevalence of overweight has tripled in Indonesia. It has gone from about 5 to 6% to 14 to 16%. So as you can see, that is a very rapid increase in the prevalence of overweight. And in the prevalence of obesity, we see a similar pattern. And it has increased even more for boys than it has for girls. It has gone from about 2% for boys to 7%. So more than tripling in the last 20 years. For girls, it has gone from 1.2% to 4.9%. Again, more than tripling in the last 20 years. So these are very important trends to be aware of. Even though the prevalence of underweight has gone down, it still affects nearly a third of children and adolescents in Indonesia. And at the same time, the prevalence of overweight and obesity has tripled and affects a little less than 20% of the population. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thanks. Oh, sorry, back one. Can you go back one slide? Yes, thank you. Oh, sorry, next one, please. Yes, thank you. So here we're looking at the prevalence of chronic energy deficiency among Indonesian adolescent girls, 15 to 19 years of age. And this is looking at data from 2013 and 2018. So in the first column, we see the prevalence of chronic energy deficiency among pregnant adolescents, which is about a third. It went down a little bit from 38% to 33%.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Diana.
Hello. Hi, May. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear. Please.
Okay. Okay. And then
Yes,
okay. Okay. And among non-pregnant women, nearly half of non-pregnant adolescents have experienced chronic energy deficiency, and that decreased to about 36% in 2018. So the trend is in a positive direction. Next slide, please. And now, looking at another marker of overweight and obesity, we look at the prevalence of central obesity or abdominal obesity among Indonesians more than 15 years of age. And as you can see, as with other indicators of overweight and obesity, this has increased over the last 20 years or so. This slide looks at the change in central obesity from 2007 to 2018. And as you can see, it has gone up from 19% to about 31% in 2018. Next slide, please. So some of the primary causes of being underweight or too thin are inadequate diets, infectious diseases, and perceptions of body image. So thinking that you should look a certain way. Next slide, please. Some of the consequences of being too thin are an increased risk of being sick or dying, delayed menarche or delayed menstruation among girls. And as we mentioned before, which is similar for anemia, this can also lead to preterm birth and low birth weight babies among pregnant adolescents. Next slide, please. Some of the causes of overweight and obesity, I'm sure, are very well known, but these include unhealthy diets, eating junk food like French fries, cookies, sodas, foods in general that are high in fat and salt, and sedentary lifestyles, so sitting and watching TV or sitting at your computer or just not being physically active in any way can also increase your risk of overweight and obesity. And also on the same as the risk factor for being too thin is the perceptions of body image. So how you perceive you should look. Next slide. And some of the consequences of being overweight and obese are increased risk of non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and hypertension, having a poor self-image, having psychological issues like depression or anxiety due to how you look, and also potentially having social problems. And among pregnant adolescents, it can lead to an increased risk of complications with pregnancy, such as hypertension and diabetes from preeclampsia. It can also lead to high birth weight babies, which can cause problems with delivery. And now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Ara, to continue with the presentation. Thank you. Next slide, please. Ara, over to you.
Thank you, Diana.
Excuse me, Ara. I'm sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you a little bit. Before you continue, I would like to announce again for the participants, if you have questions, please to chat through chat box to Q&A comes. And also that we are providing interpretation facilities. So for those who would like to follow the seminar on English, you can set your interpretation mode on English. While for those who want to follow in Indonesian language, please to choose, silahkan memilih Japanese in your interpretation mode. Thank you. Please continue, Ara.
Thank you, May. Thank you, Diana. Hi, everyone. Next, we are going to move on to a review of existing policies and programs in Indonesia. So as you can see on the slide, according to one desk review conducted in 2018, only 2 out of 104 nutrition-specific policies at the national level were designed to improve adolescent nutrition in Indonesia. One was focusing on overweight and obesity prevention and management in schools. And another one is on anemia prevention for adolescent girls and women of reproductive age. There are other nutrition-specific policies that were implemented, but it includes adolescents as a part of a broader target group, not just exclusive to adolescents. And these are the guideline for integrated counseling posts on non-communicable diseases and the guideline for balanced diets. So overall, as you can see, there are a very few policies focusing on adolescent nutrition implemented in Indonesia, at least at the national level, which means that the awareness of adolescent nutrition and its importance is still fairly low, especially among policymakers outside the health sector. The lack of high-level umbrella policies at the national level can mean there may not be enough room for all the other follow-up steps, such as subnational policies, detailed technical guidelines on implementation and budget allocation and monitoring and evaluation and so on. Next slide, please. Next, we have looked at some specific interventions and programs that had targeted adolescents in Indonesia. So the first one was in 2013, the government initiated adolescent-friendly health services called PKPR program, provided through community health centers. This program was designed to provide affordable healthcare to adolescents and increase their knowledge related to reproductive health, but nutrition was not explicitly considered as a priority of the program. And the next, IFA supplementation or iron folic acid supplementation is probably the only intervention that has been fairly consistently implemented in adolescent nutrition programming in Indonesia. There was a pilot program implemented by the government in partnership with an NGO, reached school-going adolescent girls in West Java between 2015 and 2018. And boys and out-of-school girls were not reached by this project. And the next, building on this experience, a scale-up project was implemented led by the same organization. But this time, the intervention had a wider coverage and reached more adolescent girls in East Java and East Nusa Tenggara provinces. And although it's mainly school-based, the project also provided IFA tablets through existing community health centers to out-of-school girls. And finally, there has been another recent global initiative targeting adolescent girls and women of reproductive age in multiple countries in Asia and Africa, and one of the countries was Indonesia. And the focus in Indonesia is on control and prevention of anemia through weekly IFA supplementation with nutrition education and flour fortification at the national level. Next slide, please. Next, based on our review, we have identified some promising practices that can address adolescent nutrition outcomes, the concerns in Indonesia. In general, I want to highlight the school settings have been proven as the effective and probably the easiest way to reach adolescents, with opportunities to make changes to the school curriculum and also as a platform to implement interventions like providing nutritious school meals, for example. But however, the school-based interventions may work well to reach these school-going adolescents. We should keep in mind that the out-of-school adolescents are often the most vulnerable, and they can easily get overlooked by these programs. So the program should be designed to also reach this vulnerable group of adolescents through multiple different channels, including families, peers, friends, community groups, health centers, and IT, mobile phones, social media, and so on. Next slide, please. So in the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about some interventions and programs by each nutrition topic that we've discussed. First, to tackle anemia, IFA and multiple micronutrients are known to be effective, and it has a very strong international evidence base. And there has been also evidence specific to the Indonesian context as well. Moreover, combining IFA or multiple micronutrients with other interventions like deworming treatments or nutrition education and counseling could be even more effective at reducing anemia among adolescents. Again, it is important to include adolescent boys and especially out-of-school girls in anemia prevention strategies, as only school-going girls are often targeted by these policies and programs. And finally, although these are promising interventions, better understanding of the context-specific causes of anemia among Indonesian adolescents is necessary to inform policies and program design. Next slide, please. Now we're moving on to thinness, overweight, and obesity. As you can imagine, the majority of nutrition research and programs in low and middle income countries has been focusing on undernutrition, not overnutrition. And therefore, a significant body of evidence has been generated on this topic, although it's been primarily targeting children and infants. So to reduce the prevalence of thinness among adolescents, all these proven approaches can be considered and used, and they include the provision of social protection services like food supplements, vouchers, or cash transfers, and nutrition and hygiene education or counseling through schools or community health centers, and the prevention and control of infectious diseases, and so on. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide,
Next,
please.
please.
Yeah, thank you. On the other hand, there is limited evidence on the effectiveness of interventions to prevent overweight and obesity among adolescents in low and middle income countries. Majority of the studies you can find online, and then all the journal articles are specific to the context of high income countries like the US or Europe. One study that has reviewed different programs in low, middle, high income countries, all the countries, highlighted the importance and potential of school-based promotion of healthy dietary habits and physical activity. And this was able to reduce BMI among adolescents. Other studies also highlighted the need to promote healthy body image and provide adolescent counseling support on body image dissatisfaction and related concerns like eating disorders. Next slide, please. And we're continuing discussing the thinness, overweight, and obesity because Indonesia is facing the double burden of malnutrition, like Diana pointed out. Any intervention designed to address weight-related issues need to consider all sides of these issues, including thinness, overweight, and obesity. And again, because of the lack of evidence specific to the issue in Indonesia, or even Southeast Asia in general, more context-specific evidence is needed to design better policies and programs. Next slide, please. So we reached the conclusions of this presentation. So the next two slides will summarize what Diana and I have presented today. So Indonesia adolescents and the population in Indonesia in general are facing a double burden of malnutrition, where overweight and obesity are increasing at a very fast pace, while chronic undernutrition and high prevalence of anemia remains a public health concern. However, the extent of the problems are not fully understood, and data has not been very comprehensive. It's been especially limited on dietary intake and micronutrient deficiencies among adolescents in the country. Therefore, in order to identify the optimal forms of interventions that could work well in Indonesia, more comprehensive and context-specific information is needed on the range of nutrition problems, as well as the specific causes of those problems among Indonesian adolescents. Next slide, please. In terms of policies and programs, adolescent malnutrition has been largely overlooked as a public health issue. And even those that target adolescent nutrition have been mostly around anemia prevention and control programs for adolescent girls, which means particularly lacking is programming for promoting healthy diets, energy balance to address weight gain issues among adolescents. Given the importance of adolescence as a second window of opportunity for nutrition, as Diana mentioned at the beginning, more evidence-based targeted nutrition interventions are urgently needed. And finally, as new programs are designed and scaled, they should be followed by rigorous evaluations to better understand what programs work, how or why they work, and how cost-effective they are. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ara and Diana, for your presentation. So you have captured challenges adolescent nutrition in Indonesia, and also you have provided several recommendations that might be helpful to address this issue in Indonesia. While from policy perspective, you also Community Nutrition of Ministry of Health Indonesia. Ibu Dian, good morning. Thank you very much for your time to join with us today in the seminar. Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Ibu. Thank you very much. And we would like to ask you, Ibu, to share with us your input and response regarding to what has been presented by our colleagues from IFPRI, and also your information regarding the program that are implementing now in Indonesia related to adolescent nutrition.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. Actually, ini udah belum di-share? Udah dikasih? Atau gimana? Kita share sendiri. Okay. Actually, I have some slide I want to share regarding of the former representant. But allow me please to speak in Indonesia. So my slide is in English. So if you want to know about everything that I want to present, you can see the slide. Terima kasih banyak. Selamat pagi teman-teman di Indonesia, dan selamat malam teman-teman di Washington. Saya akan mencoba menyampaikan beberapa tanggapan dari presentan sebelumnya yang menyampaikan beberapa hal terkait mereview kesehatan remaja, terutama di Indonesia. Sebenarnya ada beberapa slide yang memang sudah disampaikan oleh para presentan pertama, bahwa sebenarnya permasalahan kita adalah lebih dari seperti ini. Sasarannya lebih banyak di kelompok rentan, yaitu kita mulai dari ibu hamil, kemudian melahirkan anak, terus kemudian remaja putri, juga kelompok lansia. Jadi seperti ini yang memang menjadi prioritas kita, dan sekarang kita juga perlu melihat juga apa sebenarnya yang menjadi kebutuhan sehingga kebutuhan gizinya bisa terpenuhi pada saat-saat masa golden period ini. Berikutnya adalah masalah gizi yang tadi sudah disampaikan. Banyak remaja putri yang memang tidak mengkonsumsi makanan secara gizi seimbang karena memang ingin terlihat body image ya, citra tubuhnya supaya baik. Tadi juga sudah disampaikan, memang terlihat dari beberapa data kita yang sudah disatukan, ini ada beberapa permasalahan di dalamnya adalah terkait dengan konsumsi, asupan konsumsi. Jadi memang 6 sampai 7% orang dari 10 orang remaja tidak melakukan sarapan pagi. Kemudian juga kalau dilihat lagi 97% makanannya kurang mengandung sayur dan buah-buahan, serta hanya 46,6% remaja putri menerima tablet tambah darah, seperti itu. Berikutnya kita lihat lagi, kita uraikan lagi ke snack konsumsinya. Konsumsi snacknya, ternyata snack yang dimakan itu 50% mengandung tinggi gula, gitu kan. Jadi memang itu yang memang perlu mendapat perhatian, konsumsi yang mengandung tinggi gula, sehingga nanti kemudian kita akan menjadi memudahkan di dalam mengedukasinya. Dan juga ditemukan 32% konsumsi yang tinggi garam, 11% konsumsi makanan-makanan olahan, dan 78% konsumsi makanan yang ditambah dengan zat aditif. Kemudian juga kebiasaan personal hygiene atau perilaku hidup bersih dan sehat. 45% tidak melakukan cuci tangan dengan benar. 98% bayangkan, sementara 98% tidak melakukan gosok gigi secara benar. Jadi ya pokoknya asal sikat aja gitu kan. Terus kemudian 57% juga tidak melakukan aktivitas fisik. Tadi juga sudah disampaikan, lebih banyak melakukan sedentary activity seperti nonton TV, main game, di depan komputer, chatting, dan sebagainya. Lebih banyak dilakukan dengan posisi yang diam gitu. Berikutnya adalah kebiasaan merokok dan mengkonsumsi alkohol. Ini 22% merokok dan 6,4%-nya merokok setiap hari. Ini untuk remaja. Sedangkan 4%-nya mengkonsumsi alkohol. Lagi presentasi. Terus kemudian masalah lainnya adalah 94% sudah terekspos dengan hal-hal yang berkaitan dengan pornografi dan 5,3% sudah melakukan hubungan seksual, 14% juga menjadi korban kekerasan di dalam kelompoknya. Ini juga sebenarnya juga kemudian tadi juga sudah disampaikan bahwa memang ini permasalahan kita. Jadi triple burden gitu kan. Tadi sudah disampaikan yang stunting and wasting, overweight and obesity, juga anemia gitu kan. Dan ini juga memang kita semua tahu dampaknya terhadap kehidupan atau kualitas kehidupan berikutnya itu juga sangat bergantung pada permasalahan remaja ini. Terus kemudian selanjutnya ini adalah policy kita tidak pernah bisa bekerja sendiri. Kementerian Kesehatan tidak akan pernah bisa bekerja sendiri. Kita juga harus berbicara penting dalam upaya mengatasi masalah kesehatan dan gizi untuk memutus siklus, kemudian juga kebijakan
Halo? Halo, Bu. Halo?
Kebijakan dengan sorry ada sesuatu masalah
Oke, Bu.
Belum terdengarkah suara saya?
Ya, Bu.
Karena ada masalah koneksi, sorry.
Sekarang udah bagus.
Kebijakan dengan sasaran remaja masih terfragmentasi. Baik, terima kasih. Kebijakan dengan sasaran remaja yang masih terfragmentasi dengan cakupan intervensi yang tidak memadai, yang belum memadai. Kemudian adalah keterbatasan kapasitas dan kualitas intervensi program dan keterbatasan advokasi, kampanye, serta komunikasi perubahan perilaku yang kita lakukan. Jadi memang perlu memperkuat edukasi remaja dengan berbagai cara yang dalam hal ini adalah kita lakukan dengan menguatkan dengan cara media sosial, karena memang itulah saluran yang bisa kita lakukan. Terus kemudian kebijakan lain yang terkait remaja adalah peraturan koordinat dari Peraturan Menteri Koordinator Bidang Pembangunan Manusia dan Kebudayaan nomor 1 tahun 2018 tentang rencana aksi nasional kesehatan anak usia remaja tahun 2017 sampai 2019 yang digunakan sebagai panduan untuk kementerian lembaga terkait meningkatkan kesehatan anak dan remaja. Saat ini peraturan ini sedang diupdate untuk jangka waktu yang lebih ke depan, sehingga memang ini yang menyebutkan bahwa memang keterkaitan lintas sektor itu juga sangat kuat di dalam melakukan intervensi kepada remaja. Berikutnya tadi juga sudah disampaikan oleh presentasi sebelumnya bahwa kita juga bergantung ada dua hal, yaitu makanan berfortifikasi dan suplementasi. Makanan berfortifikasi yang selama ini kita punya adalah ada tepung, kemudian ada garam, kemudian ada minyak. Itu juga makanan berfortifikasi yang dari Menteri Perindustrian yang mewajibkan bahwa tepung terigu harus terfortifikasi dengan zat besi, zinc, asam folat, vitamin B1 dan B2. Seperti ini. Kemudian adalah yang kita lakukan adalah intervensi pemberian tablet tambah darah kepada remaja putri. Tablet tambah darah ini berkomposisi 60 mg elemental besi dan 400 mikrogram asam folat yang diminum seminggu 1 kali. Selanjutnya adalah intervensi saat ini yang potensial yang untuk meningkatkan gizi remaja di Indonesia adalah adanya program Progas. Progas itu adalah program dari Kementerian Pendidikan dan Kebudayaan terkait dengan program pemberian makan anak sekolah. Ini juga sedang saat ini sedang di hold karena sedang dievaluasi pelaksanaannya. Kemudian perlindungan untuk anak sekolah berupa PKH, pemberian paket keluarga harapan, dan bantuan pangan non tunai yang diberikan oleh Kementerian Sosial. Terus kemudian juga ada program pemberian makanan berbasis masyarakat melalui Puskesmas PKPR, Posyandu, dan Posbindu, serta juga pedoman pelaksanaan program dengan kerjasama dengan mitra pembangunan, yaitu ada dari Direktorat Gizi kita membuat pedoman gizi seimbang, pedoman pencegahan dan penanggulangan anemia pada remaja putri dan wanita usia subur, pedoman obesitas anak sekolah, buku aksi bergizi yang dengan UNICEF, buku remaja sehat penuh gizi dengan game, juga dengan lintas program yang lain, panduan PPAM Kespro Remaja, buku rapor kesehatanku, dan juga ada kegiatan yang dilakukan berbasis remaja yaitu Pramuka, Saka Bakti Husada, dan buku ini juga sudah ada panduannya yang diterbitkan oleh Direktorat Promosi Kesehatan. Berikutnya adalah ini adalah sebagai gambaran aja bahwa kita juga bekerja sama dengan tim UKS. Di sini ada pemberian tablet tambah darah dan juga melakukan kegiatan makan atau sarapan bersama di sekolah dengan makanan bergizi seimbang. Ini juga merupakan satu cantolan kita melakukan edukasi bersama dengan lintas program dan lintas sektor yang lain serta mitra pembangunan yang ada. Ini adalah intervensi spesifiknya yang kita lakukan, seperti melakukan capacity building dengan cara promosi dan konseling pemberian makan bayi dan anak, kemudian meningkatkan kualitas dari makanan bayi dan anak itu sendiri dengan melakukan promosi dan konseling breastfeeding, juga melakukan pemantauan pertumbuhan dan perkembangan pada balita, sementara kepada remaja kita melakukan penguatan edukasi gizi pada remaja. Dan ini juga bersama dengan nanti di belakang ada beberapa slide terkait dengan kegiatan penguatan edukasi gizi pada remaja yang telah dilakukan oleh mitra pembangunan dan dalam hal ini UNICEF. Untuk remaja di sini mendapatkan tablet tambah darah, juga sama dengan ibu hamil dapat tablet tambah darah juga, dan juga yang terakhir adalah penguatan intervensi gizi di puskesmas dan posyandu. Memang disitulah sebenarnya tempat ketemu sasaran-sasaran yang sangat prioritas atau sangat rentan di dalam penanganan masalah gizi. Berikutnya adalah kita juga melakukan edukasi mengenai isi piringku seperti ini. Isi piringku untuk remaja putri, sehingga memang komposisinya sesuai dengan gizi seimbang yang dengan ukuran-ukuran seperti yang ada dalam gambar, yang tetap memperhatikan pilar-pilar cuci tangan pakai sabun, kemudian melakukan aktivitas fisik, dan tetap minum air putih 8 gelas sehari. Jadi ini memang kita lakukan edukasi kepada remaja melalui berbagai macam cara, seperti juga ada seminar, kemudian masuk ke dalam ekstrakurikuler sekolah gitu, yang apa saja yang mesti kita lakukan. Juga kalau dilihat dari yang sudah dilakukan UNICEF, mereka juga melakukan kegiatan di sekolah. Jadi bagaimana mendidik remaja atau murid sekolah ini untuk membiasakan diri sarapan dengan gizi seimbang, sehingga dia diharapkan dapat membawa pelajaran ini sampai ke rumah. Berikutnya adalah key faktor faktor kuncinya adalah ada beberapa kegiatan yang sudah dilakukan seperti tadi saya sampaikan, seperti ini aksi bergizi yang dilakukan di 2 kabupaten, di Lombok Barat dan di Klaten, yang berdampak pada sekitar hampir 60.000 siswa, yang dilakukan dengan cara selain edukasi juga ada praktek-praktek makan atau sarapan bersama, kemudian mendapatkan minum tablet tambah darah bersama, seperti itu, sehingga memang edukasi yang kita lakukan secara konvergen ini dengan lintas sektor itu juga lintas sektor dan mitra pembangunan itu juga merupakan kunci sukses kesadaran siswa untuk kemudian mengonsumsi makanan bergizi seimbang dan membiasakan diri minum tablet tambah darah dengan harapan terjadi perubahan perilaku sehingga kemudian juga berdampak pada keluarga. Gitu. Lanjut. Berikutnya adalah perkembangan program ke depan, antara lain memang kita akan mengembangkan strategi yang mencakup remaja di luar sekolah. Karena yang tadi kita lakukan adalah remaja di dalam sekolah. Yang kita akan mencakup remaja di luar sekolah, kemudian juga akan membuat pedoman pelayanan gizi remaja yang implementatif di setiap level, di tingkat provinsi, kabupaten, puskesmas maupun di masyarakat. Yang ketiga, penguatan promosi dan edukasi tentang pola hidup dan diet yang sehat, gizi seimbang bagi remaja, serta kepatuhan untuk mengkonsumsi tablet tambah darah. Kemudian penguatan kerjasama lintas sektor yang tadi baru kita lakukan di 2 kabupaten, mungkin kita juga akan mengembangkan di daerah-daerah lain dengan tetap bekerjasama dengan multisektor. Terus yang terakhir adalah penguatan kajian dan pelaporan program gizi remaja ya, untuk mengisi kesenjangan di perkotaan dan pedesaan dan efektivitas program di daerah. Apakah memang ada program yang efektif, dan ini yang kelima ini lebih cenderung untuk kita lakukan dengan cara mengembangkan inovasi yang lokal spesifik. Jadi ketika kita lakukan dengan inovasi lokal spesifik akan menjadi sustain intervensi tersebut dengan mengedepankan pemberdayaan masyarakat, terutama dalam hal ini adalah masyarakat remaja. Demikian yang bisa saya sampaikan. Jika memang ada hal-hal yang kita bisa diskusikan, kita diskusikan lebih lanjut. Pada dasarnya saya sangat berterima kasih telah dilakukan review mengenai kesehatan remaja ini, walaupun tadi ada beberapa slide yang sebenarnya penggunaan kata-katanya yang tidak tepat, seperti prevalensi remaja putri yang kurang energi kronis atau hamil. Tadi sebenarnya bukan hanya remaja, itu adalah wanita usia subur, usia 15 sampai 19 tahun, itu adalah wanita usia subur. Jadi memang walaupun ada kecenderungan untuk melakukan hubungan seksual di usia muda, namun yang di data tersebut adalah data wanita usia subur. Itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih. Saya kembalikan ke
Thank you very much, Budian. Thank you for very comprehensive information from you about the program that has been implementing in Indonesia related to nutrition adolescent. So it's I can see that it's captured the nutrition and sensitive and also specific, and also for the plan for the program development that you are also plan to reach the girls or the boys that drop out from school. Thank you very much, Ibu, and we look forward to have more discussion with you. Now we will move to the next response from Pak Joni Atopa. He is the head of Governance and Social Culture Division in Planning and Development Agency in Nusa Tenggara Timur Province. He will share with us his idea and input to the review that has been presented before from IFPRI. Pak Joni, you can go
Baik,
now.
terima kasih. Terima kasih Ibu Mei sebagai moderator memberi kesempatan pada kami untuk menanggapi hasil riset yang telah disampaikan terdahulu. Halo, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam sejahtera bagi kita sekalian. Pertama-tama saya bersyukur sekali karena saya bisa langsung mengikuti pertemuan ini. Sebelumnya dijadwalkan Pak Kepala Pimpinan kami yang hadir, tetapi setelah saya ikuti, saya malah bersyukur saya hadir. Kenapa? Karena urusan yang kita diskusikan saat ini menjadi tanggung jawab langsung saya. Dan ini berarti ini akan menambah pengetahuan kami di daerah untuk permasalahan-permasalahan pangan dan gizi terkait dengan remaja. Ini suatu berkat bagi saya dan bagi NTT lah kalau boleh kita. Saya diberikan waktu 10 menit, Ibu Moderator, mudah-mudahan saya coba kolaborasikan dengan baik sehingga tepat 10 menit. Saya mohon izin untuk menyampaikan sedikit share kebijakan. Nanti di bagian akhirnya saya akan memberikan catatan terhadap hasil riset yang tadi telah disampaikan oleh peneliti tadi. Saya share screen. Mohon bisa di-share screen.
Untuk event manager mungkin bisa dibantu Pak Joninya dijadikan co-host sehingga bisa share screen.
Mohon maaf.
Silakan Pak Joni.
Oke, terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Saya menyampaikan beberapa slide. Yang pertama ini tentu terkait dengan topik yang kita diskusikan pada hari ini, yaitu review program dan kegiatan terkait gizi remaja yang kita coba kolaborasikan dengan kebijakan program ketahanan pangan untuk penanganan masalah gizi di NTT. Sedikit latar belakang, NTT penduduk miskinnya itu 20,62%. Kenapa saya harus mencantumkan data penduduk miskin? Karena nanti ini akan menjadi salah satu permasalahan yang juga terkait dengan masalah gizi khususnya pada remaja. Kita punya 1/5 penduduk miskin di NTT. Garis kemiskinan juga kita masih cukup ini. Kita punya apa istilahnya garis kemiskinan pangan itu yang berkontribusi 78% terhadap angka kemiskinan. Ada garis kemiskinan bukan pangan 21,09. Angka prevalensi stunting di NTT terakhir itu hasil koordinasi kami dengan Dinas Kesehatan berdasarkan pencatatan IFPRI itu 2019 30,8, saat ini data pengukuran di 2020 sekitar 28,2. Bukan masalah angka ini yang ingin saya sampaikan, tapi saya mau menyampaikan bahwa ada sedikit progres positif yang bisa kita dapatkan berdasarkan pencatatan ini. Ini tentu karena kita tahu NTT stuntingnya tinggi, tertinggi di Indonesia dari segi prevalensinya, dan untuk itu maka RPJMD kita di NTT 2018-2023 stunting itu masuk sebagai quick wins kita. Saya ingin sedikit mencantumkan soal data kemiskinan. Beras, rokok, ini menjadi satu hal yang sangat memberi kontribusi yang tinggi terhadap kemiskinan. Tadi disampaikan oleh Ibu Direktur juga soal pangan ini. Saya menambahkan lagi konsumsi sirih pinang. Ini nanti teman-teman moderator tolong ini konsumsi istilahnya sirih dan pinang di NTT itu cukup tinggi selain rokok. Itu bahkan pada kabupaten-kabupaten tertentu itu ini menjadi sangat besar mempengaruhi konsumsi pangan di level masyarakat. Bahkan termasuk juga di remaja. Nah, strategi yang kita ambil berdasarkan latar belakang itu ada strategi dan program yang sudah dirumuskan pemerintah provinsi, dan ini sudah sama-sama kita tahu tentu berada dalam protokol penanganan protokol tatanan hidup baru sesuai dengan kondisi kita pada saat ini ada menghadapi pandemi COVID-19. Skemanya ada 4 skema yang paling utama berdasarkan kebijakan dan strategi. kita penurunan TFR, total fertility rate, kita juga mengoptimalisasi perlindungan sosial. Setelah itu ada penyediaan kebutuhan dasar dan juga pemberdayaan ekonomi yang berkelanjutan. Pada kelompok sasaran yang kita sepakati bersama, penduduk miskin dan juga rentan stunting. Ini kalau kebijakan kami di daerah kita pakai data DTKS maupun juga data hasil analisa apa istilahnya ansip, analisa situasi dari konvergensi penanganan stunting. Itu menjadi data, menjadi lokus utama dalam pendekatan holistik, integrasi, tematik dan spasial. Tentu dalam kolaborasi seluruh pemangku kepentingan yang ada di daerah, termasuk LSM, NGO, NSE, tokoh masyarakat dan tokoh agama. Tantangan untuk penurunan stunting di NTT, kalau kita boleh catat, harus kita akui bahwa kita belum cukup terintegrasi. Semangatnya sudah ada, tetapi belum cukup. Mesti lebih ditingkatkan. Ini diketahui dengan penurunan prevalensinya yang juga masih tetap tinggi. Yang kedua adalah harus juga kita akui bahwa kebijakan dan program yang kita rumuskan itu belum mampu diterjemahkan dengan baik pada level perangkat daerah maupun pada saat implementasinya di masyarakat. Ini terlihat dari hasil riset tadi, kondisi-kondisi di daerah, misalnya ada kegiatan-kegiatan yang tidak terbackup dengan baik untuk sosialisasinya ataupun implementasi lebih besar, lebih tinggi di masyarakat. Yang berikut juga kita harus akui kapasitas SDM di daerah itu harus kita akui juga masih belum cukup baik di tingkat provinsi, terutama di kabupaten dan di desa. Yang berikut adalah konektivitas dan koordinasi antara kelembagaan pusat, provinsi, kabupaten, kota, dan desa belum cukup optimal. Mohon maaf Ibu Direktur, saya harus bilang ini, kita harus terbuka saat ini bahwa kita belum cukup mampu membuat sebuah konektivitas antar program dan kegiatan dan koordinasi yang baik. Kita sudah bertemu, tetapi kadang-kadang di dalam implementasi lebih lanjut itu belum berjalan dengan baik. Dan yang terakhir harus kita juga bilang bahwa perilaku masyarakat dan dukungan sosial kita jadinya belum cukup optimal. Tentu perilaku dan dukungan ini belum optimal karena permasalahan yang terdahulu. Kalau mereka memahami dengan baik, mereka akan mendukung dengan baik. Jadi permasalahan yang terakhir ini adalah sebuah akibat dari berbagai permasalahan sebelumnya. Nah, strategi kami merumuskannya dalam 3. Khusus NTT kita mengambil kunci pada 1000 HPK. 1000 hari pertama kehidupan. Sasaran kita itu adalah yang ibu hamil, ibu menyusui, balita bawah 2 tahun maupun balita yang bawah 5 tahun. Prioritas kedua dan juga utama, saya tidak bilang ini kedua sebenarnya, dia kedua tetapi juga utama adalah pada anak, remaja, dan wanita usia subur. Dalam riset tadi memang mesti kita bedakan antara wanita usia subur, pasangan usia subur, remaja, dan anak. Nah, ini mungkin teman-teman peneliti juga bisa menjadi bagian yang diperhatikan. Itu ada beberapa masukan. Kalau kita di daerah ini juga kita kenal, misalnya Pak Gubernur mengatakan untuk anak remaja misalnya dia harus bisa menenun baru menikah. Ini sebuah pernyataan yang menurut saya harus diterjemahkan dengan baik dalam program dan kegiatan. Harus bisa menenun baru menikah. Jadi dia harus bisa memiliki kegiatan ekonomi untuk aktivitas kehidupannya baru dia menikah. Nah, kondisi-kondisi seperti ini dalam implementasi program dan kegiatan belum cukup bisa diterjemahkan dengan baik. Dan prioritas yang ketiga dan utama itu adalah pada pasangan usia subur. Tadi Ibu Direktur sudah menyampaikan secara lebih ini. Tetapi khusus untuk kondisi di daerah, misalnya kita mengaktifkan, membuat lebih masif penyuluhan dan pendampingan kesehatan pranikah, itu lewat lembaga-lembaga keagamaan, lewat gereja, baik Katolik, baik Protestan maupun Muslim. Juga kita lebih promosikan perilaku hidup sehat. Saat ini memang kita sudah melaksanakan, tetapi itu seolah-olah menjadi sebuah program kedua. Nah, ke depan dengan kondisi COVID, mengingatkan kita bahwa PAWS ini mesti menjadi prioritas yang pertama. Dan yang ketiga itu adalah soal penyuluhan tentang pengolahan pangan berbasis sumber daya lokal. Kita tidak kekurangan sumber daya pangan lokal, tetapi yang ada adalah kita terlalu terfokus pada pangan-pangan olahan yang datang dari luar dan masih dipertanyakan kondisi. Saya masuk ke tanggapan terhadap hasil penelitian. Yang pertama, kita tahu kondisi remaja di NTT. NTT ini adalah wilayah tengah atau bisa juga kita bilang wilayah timur. Sifatnya ada kepulauan dan sangat berkaitan dengan permasalahan aktual. Oleh Pak Gubernur kita bilang NTT itu punya isu memalukan. Isu kemiskinan, isu stunting, rendahnya akses dan kualitas layanan pendidikan dan juga kesehatan. Jadi mungkin bukan sekedar masalah pangan dan gizi, tetapi juga ada di dalamnya kemiskinan, ada juga soal pendidikan dan kesehatan yang akses dan kualitasnya masih sangat kurang. 4 ini menjadi hal penting di NTT dan ini menjadi masalah yang memalukan menurut Bapak Gubernur, dan ke depan inilah yang akan kita coba percepat akselerasi penanganan. Yang berikut NTT ataupun wilayah timur. Ini kita tahu bahwa remaja itu posisinya di nomor 2 kan. Kalau kita boleh jujur ya, ini kita pertemuannya ilmiah. Perempuan masih di nomor 2 kan, baik dari segi budaya bahkan kadang-kadang masih ada terjadi pernikahan dini, bahkan di desa-desa itu masih cukup banyak terjadi. Diperparah dengan kondisi gizi remaja, pernikahan dini, kehamilan dini, melahirkan dini, terus kondisi gizi remajanya juga seperti data yang tadi disampaikan oleh peneliti. Yang berikut, kalau soal komitmen pemerintah saat ini cukup kuat, khusus NTT bahkan nasional Pak Jokowi Presiden sangat kuat, dan sampai di daerah kita juga sangat kuat untuk kolaborasi penanganan stunting. Masalahnya ternyata kita bukan sekedar mesti kuat di komitmen, tetapi juga kolaborasi dan saling percaya di antara kita. NTT punya potensi sumber daya lokal yang jika digunakan dengan baik dapat mengatasi persoalan pangan dan gizi. Ini saat ini coba kita kembangkan. Isu yang juga sangat kuat di NTT itu adalah soal keamanan pangan. Keamanan pangan ini kalau boleh saya tambahkan dalam hasil riset, dalam kesimpulannya, kita bukan hanya sekedar permasalahan ganda di gizi, tetapi juga permasalahan ganda di pangan. Permasalahan ganda di pangan yang pertama itu adalah soal ketersediaannya, dan ini berkaitan dengan pemenuhan atau aspek produksi. Akhirnya orang petani itu menggunakan segala cara untuk meningkatkan produksi. Kontrol terhadap penggunaan zat untuk meningkatkan produksi itu menjadi terabaikan. Penggunaan pupuk, pestisida dan lain sebagainya itu menjadi terabaikan. Itu dari aspek produksinya, ketersediaan pangan. Yang kedua dari aspek keamanan pangan. Mungkin
Pak
juga
Kabit,
perlu
Pak Kabit, maaf, Bapak punya waktu tinggal 1 menit lagi, Pak.
Oke. Ini kebetulan sudah menjelang selesai. Maka mungkin menjadi catatan bagi teman-teman sebagai peneliti memperhatikan juga permasalahan produksi dan keamanan pangannya sebelum sampai ke masalah konsumsi yang berkaitan dengan kandungan gizi dari pangan tersebut. Menjadi catatan bagi NTT, mungkin nanti kita akan coba lebih berbagai masukan yang tadi telah disebut. Kita harus lebih masif untuk anak lebih memahami tentang pentingnya asupan gizi yang bagi mereka. Yang kedua itu adalah peran BP3A di daerah. Anak-anak itu bisa juga diberikan pengetahuan tentang hal ini. Saya pikir catatan dari kami sementara seperti itu. Ibu moderator, terima kasih atas kesempatan yang diberikan. Nanti kita akan berdiskusi. Saya punya beberapa catatan lagi, tapi saya pikir nanti dalam diskusi bisa kita elaborasi lebih lanjut. Terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Sekian.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Joni from Bapelitbangda Provinsi NTT. We will move on to the next response. Will be delivered by Ibu Isman Stalpers. She is our country director, Country Director of SNV Indonesia. She will deliver several messages that maybe will be help us to have further discussion during this seminar. Ibu Isman? Hello?
Selamat pagi semua. Good morning. This is Isman Stalper speaking from SNV Indonesia. I first want to thank my partners from the Ministry of Health, Ibu Dr. Dian, and also Pak Johnny for giving a very excellent presentations, both of you. Terima kasih banyak for sharing at the national level, also the parameter for success, as well as very specific for NTT, which is very relevant for the topic of today. And I also want to thank my colleagues, the civil society partners from the Voice for Change program, as well as our international research partner, IFPRI, who gave a very detailed analysis of the issue of malnutrition and adolescence in Indonesia. Terima kasih banyak, Dr. Dina and Ibu Arago. I really appreciate it. And I think that I want to go more into overview of SNV before I go into the request from the moderator to give also the parameter for success. So SNV is an international global organization. We work in more than 25 countries globally on agriculture, water and energy in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Our multi-country program, which is called Voice for Change Partnership, is being implemented in 6 countries, of which Indonesia is the Asian country. And we have a lot of evidence-based advocacy, research, and action also that we have done in Sumatra, NTT, and NTB on SDGs 2, which is on food and nutrition security and stunting, and on WASH, on sanitation. Now, if I go more into the food and nutrition security, and also especially our support to government of Indonesia to accelerate on the stunting reduction, I think this is why we're here today. And if I think about the most important parameter for success, it's actually all of you that are here today, because we strongly believe, and evidence is supporting that in order to tackle what you already described, Pak, just recently now also on the double burden of malnutrition, and that come as a red thread through all your presentations this morning. We know that we need a multi-stakeholder and inclusive approach. Now, what does this actually mean? It means that we need to think of how we make sure that we include all stakeholders. And what I think is really important to mention is that we tend to overlook the voice of the youth, of the millennials, of women, of people with disabilities, and a wide range of civil society groups, especially in more remote areas of Indonesia. But also, I don't think we should overlook the importance of the role of media and of the private sector. So all of these stakeholders have an important role to play for, I would say, the movement against stunting. And this moving, in order to accelerate, in order to be able to really achieve results on the ground, we see that we need the adolescents and we need the millennial. So I'm doing an appeal to all of you who are listening and out here today to really see how can we engage further, how can we make sure that the adolescent and the millennials and the youth that are here today can take the issue of combating this double burden, whether it's the thinniness we discussed, that was clearly showed in the presentation, or the obesity issue that is becoming prevalent in our country. How can we actually tackle that? I think we need very much support from research also. We have IFPRI at the international level who has been doing the evidence-based research, but we also have, we work very closely with local research partners at the national and at the local level in Indonesia. And why is this important? Because when we talk about the numbers and we talk about the intervention, they need to be context specific. And for Indonesia, we know that already when you look at more the detail into the area, and it was also mentioned by Ministry of Health and by Bapa from Bapeda, the Kepala, we see that it's very important that we need to look at the specific regional interventions. It was briefly touched upon. We need to look at the food insecurity. That is really an issue, the excess of food and the production. But we also need to think of it as an integrated approach, because we have learned also through the Voice for Change program that it's not only about the food intake, but it's also about the sanitation and hygiene behavior. So the promotion of health, the promotion of sanitation is very important as well in this integrated approach to tackle the double burden of malnutrition. There have been some excellent examples that were given at national and at the regional level. There is a whole movement, I think, happening on the issue of stunting. It really has created a movement, I would say, when you think of when we started the Voice for Change program, that was almost 5 years ago, you see that there was maybe less attention for stunting, also at the government level, at the policy level. And right now there is a really critical moment where we need to tackle the issue of malnutrition and stunting. And how we can do that is by complementing what is there, because there is a great initiative and we all know about it. It's making sure that the interventions are tackling the period of the first 1,000 days of children, which is in Indonesia, it's the 1,000 HPK, it's called. But we also need to do more. And if you want to have this inclusive approach, we need to think of also this adolescent women. We have to think of the group of pregnant women, especially in the adolescent age. There is an issue of early marriage and early pregnancy prevailing still in NTT and NTB, which is affecting especially adolescent girls, and interventions around that are important. And I think it was already mentioned in the beginning, but for those of you who joined this webinar a bit later, only out of the 104 nutrition-specific projects and policies that are now in Indonesia, we only see that 2 policies really strongly promote the issue of adolescent and youngster health and nutrition. And I don't think it needs any more convincing. We know the statistics that we need to target more on the adolescents. So we need you, together with you, to see how we can have a success and making sure that we keep the movement alive. And I think an important one for tackling malnutrition and stunting, there are actually 3 or 4 solutions that we have learned through our research and through our analysis. We already, first of all, we already discussed the issue of the importance of school-based health promotion. And Ibu Dian has given some good examples there. Secondly, we need to also think of those that are not in school. That was clearly mentioned by IFPRI. So we need to think of community-based behavior change interventions, especially to improve adolescent girls on nutrition. And there are great examples that we can share, not only in Indonesia, but also in other South Asian countries. And I know that there are other countries also participating today. And we need to share those lessons to be able to really reach out all the youth. Thirdly, and not less important, is that we also have learned that information and communication platforms are critical. Now, we've created some of these platforms, especially on social media. The effectiveness of that, we are researching. We see positive results, but we would need to, of course, make sure that it's really backed up by the evidence. But so far, especially in a country like Indonesia, I mean, today is another witness of that, we can really reach out to a larger group of audience. We have very excellent social media. I think it's one of the best channels, even better than in country where I come from in Belanda. I think our social media platform are very strong here, and we can use that also as a parameter for success, as an intervention point. And I think also that the third the last one, the fourth point that was also mentioned is also about this positive imaging around promoting a healthy body. So I think those are some of the solutions that we believe are necessary for successful interventions to tackle the issue of malnutrition. And before I give my closing statement, I want to also reach out again to those that are participating, because there are going to be some upcoming platforms that you can join as Millennium and Youth and a broader audience as well. And a few I want to mention. So we have actually the Millennials Voice. It's a platform that we set up earlier this year that focus on millennial and youth and organizations in food and nutrition security. And the Millennium Voice is looking still for specific positions. So please register and look out for that. Secondly, there will be held by SNV and Concepcion Millennial Scientists for Nutrition. And this will be a national event. It will be like a training and a competition for youth and researchers on food and nutrition security. Thirdly, we also have a social entrepreneur model. It's like a semathon. We've done this before, and it's held by SNV and Transform. That will also be launched this month. And this is again a national hackathon event for startups or enthusiasts in social entrepreneurship for food and nutrition security. And there is also the Amunisi. It is the Youngster for Inclusive Nutrition, held by SNV and our civil society partner Benko APEC, an entity, which also will be launched this month. It's a series of radio events where also we take the opportunity to do more capacity building and exposure for youth to understanding the issue of nutrition in a more inclusive way. And last but not least, in East Flores with YPPS, our civil society partner, SNV will be organizing Grow Your Own Local Food competition. This also will be held this month. So this will be posted by SNV and you will be able to hear more about it through the social media. I know you're all part of that. And please look out for that the coming month. And I welcome you to join us. And yeah, we are really ready to share more of our lessons learned, but also more hear from you on how we can make this a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibu Isman, for sharing with us about SNV and also several activities related to nutrition and also youth that are going to be implemented in several areas of our intervention. Now, I'd like to give opportunity to Diana from IFPRI to give a short response towards everything that has been delivered by Ibu Isman, Budian, and also Pak Joni. Diana, hello. Hello, Diana. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. And yes, thanks to all the respondents to our presentations. And thank you especially to all the participants for joining and spending this time today learning about what Indonesia is actually doing to address adolescent nutrition and health issues right now. It's very exciting to see so many participants. And I think this is more than we could have ever imagined would be participating in this type of forum. So thank you all for joining. And in the interest of time, I'll keep my responses very brief so that we have a little time for questions and answers, and so that we can hear from all of you what you want to know more about and how you see what Indonesia is actually doing now in terms of programming and policies, and what could maybe be done a little bit differently or better, or to be more inclusive and to get you all involved in solving the health and nutrition problems you're facing. I just want to pick up on a few points. It was very exciting to hear about the new initiatives, the new programs and policies that are being undertaken by the government of Indonesia. And I just want to reiterate one of the points from our presentation earlier, which is related to the need for context-specific evidence. So really understanding what's driving the health and nutrition problems in specific areas, in different regions, rural versus urban differences, things like that. And to be able to really make those programs work to address those specific problems. Indonesia is very diverse, and so it'll be very important to make sure that the interventions, the programs, are very context-specific and addressing the driver. Second, I would also like to reiterate the importance of, sorry, my video, I don't know what's going on. I'm being muted and okay. Anyway, it's the importance of coupling those programs with evaluations. So when there is a program that is thought is going to really work to make a difference in some specific issues like reducing overweight or reducing anemia, it's very important to evaluate those programs to see which ones work the best and to see which ones are the most cost effective so that those programs can be scaled up and reach more people. The other point I wanted to pick up on is the importance of the collaboration and commitment at all levels. For any new programs or policies to really work, these are essential to the success of those programs and policies. So as was mentioned by the presenters, this will take coordination and commitment at the national level, the regional level, the sub-regional levels. And so everything that can be done to really work on that coordination and collaboration will help to make those programs as effective as they can be. Lastly, I just want to pick up on the point on the importance of addressing some of the known underlying drivers of malnutrition issues, such as poverty, food security, equity, and as was mentioned by S&V, the country director, the importance of hygiene and wash. I don't think that we can make significant movement in reducing the problems of undernutrition and overnutrition in Indonesia without addressing those issues. So any programs and policies that are put in place should also consider how these affect different types of people, different groups, how they affect boys versus girls, how they affect those who are, you know, more impoverished versus in more middle income status. And just to keep in mind that food security issues can affect people in all different ways. So food insecurity can lead to not having enough food, but it can also lead to having to eat more processed foods or lower quality foods. And so these are all important things to consider in the programs and policies that are designed to address the nutrition issues in Indonesia. So I will leave my comments here for now. And I just again want to really thank all the respondents and all the participants for joining today. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Now we will have a Q&A session. We already have several questions that address to the speakers and also to the government representative. First, we have a question from Hafsah from West Sulawesi. And her question is, considering that West Sulawesi are in the top 5 of rank regarding to stunting in Indonesia. And also they have a survey research that confirm that they have a high trend of early marriage. So the question is there any relationship between this early marriage with stunting prevalence? And can you explain to them about several recommended intervention that can be delivered to the teenagers and also adolescents so they can avoid this early marriage? That's the first one. And the second one is from Aprilia from Java to Diana and Ara. According to the presentation, the prevalence of underweight is decreased while the obesity and also the overweight is increased. But the anemia is still high followed with the high prevalence of stunting. So it can be said that this is related to the nutrition intake with the high energy intake but low protein intake. Is there any suggestion from Diana or Ara? What intervention that can be done at the community health center level, at the community level, for them to help to decrease this problem related to high consumption of energy and very low consumption of protein? That's two first. You can give response to that question. Hello? Hello, Ara? Ara or Diana? Please.
Hi,
give,
this is Diana. Yeah, sorry. It always takes a minute to be unmuted, but yes, thank you for the question. So I'll start with the first question on early marriage with stunting. So early marriage is related to poor nutrition outcomes for children that are born, and the relationship is because the earlier people are married, the earlier often they're having children. So if people are getting married while they are still adolescents, that means that it's very common to have a child while you're still an adolescent. And as adolescents are still growing themselves, it can cause problems with stunting for the adolescent, but it can also cause problems for undernutrition for the babies, because babies that are born to adolescent mothers are more risk of nutrition problems than those that are born to women after adolescence. So the problem is twofold. It poses risks for the adolescent themselves and also for the child that's born. In terms of delaying early marriage, some of the programs that have been successful are those that really focus on increasing education, access to education, so keeping girls in school longer and improving educational opportunities. The other is improving livelihoods. So when women know that they have access to livelihoods, that they can support themselves, then they are also more likely to delay marriage. So those are two ways in which you can address the issue of delaying marriage. Others are related to behavior change communication interventions that can talk about some of the risks with early marriage and the importance of waiting. But some of these things will also need to be addressed in terms of the context-specific barriers and reasons why people are getting married early. So you'll really need to dive in to understand why adolescents in Indonesia are getting married and why aren't they waiting. And that's how you would really be able to design programs to address those issues more in a context-specific way. The second question, I think was, and I was a little confused on the question, so please, if I'm not addressing it, please let me know. But what I understood from the question was on how to deal with the problems of anemia and intake of high energy food with low protein. So these are two separate issues.
Yes.
Okay, so those are two separate issues. So anemia is generally caused by inadequate intake of micronutrients like iron, folic acid, vitamin B12, vitamin C, zinc, several micronutrients. Iron and folic acid are two of the main ones. It can also be caused by diseases. So infectious diseases like malaria, other diseases like helminth infections, these can all cause anemia. And so it's important to understand what is causing anemia among Indonesian adolescents. It used to be thought that iron and folic acid or iron deficiency alone caused 50% of anemia worldwide. However, recent evidence suggests that it varies greatly by the context. In some places, iron deficiency is only a quarter of the problem, and in other areas, it's nearly 100% of the problem. And so again, there's a need to understand the context-specific drivers of anemia in Indonesia to better design programs to address those. As was mentioned, Indonesia has in place iron folic acid supplementation programs for adolescents. So that problem is being addressed. There was also mention of fortification of staple foods with a variety of micronutrients. So several micronutrients are being addressed, but there may be other problems related to diseases, infectious diseases, or helminth infections that may need to be addressed. There may need to be further interventions related to other micronutrient deficiencies, but all of these need to be understood in the context of Indonesia and any sub-regional or regional differences. In terms of what the health centers can do with high consumption of energy-dense foods and low consumption of protein, I think that really revolves around addressing issues with knowledge and also with food security issues. And so and probably in a lot of cases, poverty. So I think programs that can address poverty and food security will help address this issue, but those should be coupled with behavior change communication programs to really help people understand how to make healthy choices if you address the issues related to poverty and food security. Thanks. That's all I have for those questions.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. So you emphasize on the importance to understand the context, why the problems exist, and then we can design how to solve the problem. And also the problems should be coupled with also problem that focus on behavior change communication, so help adolescents and also community to make choice regarding to their diet and their health, their habit. Is that correct, Diana? Okay, we have a third question from Inyoman Adiasa from West Nusa Tenggara. He would like to know about what is the best way to determine obesity status among adolescents, and is it the same between men and women, between boys and girls? Hello? Hello, Diana?
Hi. Yes.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you're being muted, sorry.
Yeah, I keep being muted. So, anyway, yeah, so I'm not sure I understand the question. The measurement of obesity and overweight is a measure of body mass index. So it is a measure of height by weight. So
I think this is related to the body mass index. How to, yeah. Is there any difference between boys and girls?
In terms of the causes? I'm not sure if they're asking about how to measure it or about what causes the high overweight and obesity among men and women or boys and girls.
Hello?
I don't understand the question.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So the question is about how to determine the obesity status among adolescents. Is there any difference with adult, and is there any difference between boys and girls to determine the obesity status?
Yeah, so there are different I can't think of reference guides on how to determine the prevalence of overweight and obesity. So among adults, so adolescents who are older than 18 years of age or adults, you can think of the body mass index of greater than 30 or 29.9 is considered obese. Greater than 25 is considered overweight. But for adolescents, you have to take into account the growth period. And so there is a different set of reference values that are used to determine, to estimate the prevalence of overweight and obesity among adolescents. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yes, I think maybe May has internet problems, so I will take over for a while. So we would like to jump in to the third question from YouTube because we are also live streaming on YouTube right now. So we have a question from Inyoman Adiasa from Poltekkes Kemenkes Mataram, West Nusa Tenggara Province. And the question is how to best determine adolescent obesity status. Is this the same between men and women? Maybe Ara or Diana can answer. Thank you.
I think we have just answered that question. That was the third question.
Oh,
how
sorry.
To determine. Yes.
Sorry.
Diana has answered the question.
Okay, sorry. All right, so we will invite for the live questions then. We have Dina Noah. Let me invite her for a second. Halo, Dina.
Halo.
Hai, bisa dinyalakan videonya?
Sudah.
Sudah, oke. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dina will have questions in Bahasa, so feel free to move to another translation mode. So Dina, silahkan untuk bertanya kepada siapa, kemudian pertanyaannya apa. Silahkan. Oh ya, perkenalan singkat juga ya. Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih. Perkenalkan, saya Dina Noak. Saya dari NTT, dari organisasi Geramin NTT. Saya ingin bertanya ke Ibu dari Kemenkes mengenai presentasi yang tadi. Kira-kira strategi apa yang akan dilakukan oleh pemerintah agar program gizi remaja yang sudah ada dan juga yang akan dirancang nanti bisa menjangkau remaja-remaja disabilitas. Karena kita tahu bahwa penyandang disabilitas adalah masyarakat yang sangat rentan terhadap gizi yang buruk. Karena banyak juga orang tua yang setelah pemaparan materi tadi saya melihat bahwa akan ada strategi ke sekolah-sekolah dan juga ke masyarakat-masyarakat, tapi banyak penyandang disabilitas yang tidak bersekolah. Jadi ada juga yang disembunyikan oleh orang tua mereka sehingga mereka tidak diurus sama sekali, bahkan disembunyikan. Nah, untuk Ibu sendiri bagaimana strategi yang akan dilakukan? Mungkin itu saja. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Dina dari NTT. Dina berasal dari organisasi Geramin, yaitu organisasi untuk inklusi sosial dengan teman-teman disabilitas juga, ya, sebagai anggota juga di sana. Ibu Mei sebagai moderator sudah kembali lagi. Saya persilakan, silakan Ibu Mei.
Baik, terima kasih Mbak Yuni buat supportnya. Dina, terima kasih banyak. Thank you for your question. I would like to give the opportunity for Ibu Budian from Ministry of Health to give response to question from Dina. Bu, please.
Baik, terima kasih Ibu Mei. Terima kasih Bu Mei, terima kasih tadi Mbak Dina yang sudah, Kak Dina ya, karena dari NTT, yang sudah menanyakan mengenai kegiatan ini. Jadi memang setting kita ke depan tadi sudah saya sampaikan ada beberapa kegiatan. Ada beberapa kegiatan terkait dengan rencana kegiatan kita ke depan. Yaitu menyusun strategi yang mengembangkan strategi untuk mencakup remaja di luar sekolah. Kalau sebenarnya apa yang kita lakukan, intervensi yang kita lakukan itu tidak membedakan yang disabilitas maupun yang normal, karena semua remaja mendapatkan intervensi yang sama. Jadi kita tidak membedakan intervensi yang sama. sehingga tetap mendapatkan tablet tambah darah gitu kan. Nah, permasalahannya adalah bagaimana menjangkau remaja yang di luar sekolah. Kalau di dalam sekolah melalui institusi lebih mudah. Tapi di luar sekolah ini yang memang sedang kita susun strateginya seperti apa mencakup remaja di luar sekolah. Nah, memang kita ada beberapa kelompok-kelompok yang bisa kita lakukan. Misalnya ada beberapa daerah yang sudah mempunyai posyandu remaja, sehingga itu lebih bisa dijangkau terjangkau remaja yang di luar sekolah. Namun kalau yang tidak ada, nah ini sedang kita juga makanya kita sedang mengembangkan strategi untuk mencakup remaja di luar sekolah ini. Jadi kalau intervensinya persis sama dengan apa yang kita lakukan pada usia remaja pada umumnya. Jadi tidak membedakan apakah dia disabilitas atau tidak. Jadi kita melakukan hal yang sama. Begitu juga dengan edukasinya, juga penguatan multisektornya, kita tetap lakukan dengan hal yang sama. Jadi sekali lagi saya menggarisbawahi bahwa intervensi untuk remaja di Indonesia kebijakannya tidak membedakan disabilitas atau tidak. Pokoknya tetap dia adalah remaja dan dia mendapatkan intervensi yang sama. Demikian. Terima kasih Bu Mei.
Thank you, Ibu Dian. So the program that are implementing now and also that will be developed later on, it's still an inclusive program, ya Bu. So it will accommodate the interest of school and non-school adolescents and also adolescent with disability, ya Bu ya. Okay. Kak Dina, I hope it answer your question. And now we will move to the next live question. We will have Mbak Nia Rizky Lestari from Yogyakarta. Mbak Nia, please go ahead. Please introduce yourself and also your question. You would like to deliver the question to which speaker or response. Please, Mbak.
Oke.
Halo Mbak Nia.
Nama saya Nia Rizky Lestari. Ya. Sudah.
Silakan, Mbak.
Sudah terdengar suara saya?
Sudah, Mbak. Silakan.
Nama saya Nia Rizky Lestari. Saya mahasiswa dari Universitas. Saya ingin tanya Ibu Dimas. Saya sudah terjawab pertanyaan sebelumnya. Saya baru terkait dengan strategi manfaatkan mahasiswa dari kesehatan khususnya gizi untuk intervensi tersebut. Saya pribadi siswa itu merasa kesulitan cara menyampaikan dari masyarakat di luar institusi.
Halo?
Ya, putus-putus mungkin itu. Bisa diulangi pertanyaannya, Mbak?
Ya.
Mbak Nia, tolong diulangi pertanyaannya, Mbak. Soalnya tadi putus-putus, Mbak.
Gimana? Ya.
Bisa tolong diulangi pertanyaannya, Mbak?
Oh iya. Iya. Jadi intervensi Bapak Direktorat Gizi Masyarakat, apakah mahasiswa khususnya kesehatan untuk melaksanakan
Halo?
Mungkin dipindahkan.
Ya, halo Mbak.
Nggak kedengaran suaranya, Mbak.
Kami sama sekali nggak bisa dengar suaranya Mbak Nia. Halo Mbak. Atau mungkin sambil menunggu Mbak Nia mungkin menyeting koneksi dan lain-lainnya, kita punya satu pertanyaan lagi. Pertanyaan dari Mbak Mariati, Transform NTB. Pertanyaannya lebih diarahkan untuk ke Ibu Ibu Dian. Mbak Mariati, silakan Mbak. Halo. Oke Mbak Mar, silakan. Halo Mbak Mar. Mbak Mariati. Halo. Halo Mbak Mariati. Halo. Halo. Oke. Mungkin Mbak Mariati masih menyiapkan diri. Tadi kalau dari Mbak Nia, ini saya coba bantu membacakan pertanyaannya, dikirimkan ke kami. Mbak Nia, pertanyaannya, the first question is to speaker two, to Ara and Diana, and the question is about more about anemia and undernutrition, anemia or other form of undernutrition in adolescents that has a big impact on the future of not only the teenager in themselves, but also to the next generation that they will produce later on. She wondered about the journal that she read once about the relationship between stunted women, whether is that they are teenager or already mature, that they are have a bigger challenge to have a stunting baby. While in Indonesia, we have program that to the provision of iron folic acid tablet through schools that has been implementing by the government and also working together with several development partners. And she felt that there is still a problem in terms of the implementation of the iron folic acid tablet in Indonesia, because many teenagers, they don't want to consume the iron folic acid because related to the side effect. They feel nausea, they feel and then sometimes they give response that because they are still in the menstruation period, and then they don't want to take this tablet. Is there any specific message that you can share with this person that asking this question, so it can help her to deliver the message to the adolescent because of that problem? Sometimes they refuse to take the tablet. Hello, Diana. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Hi, May. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. So thank you for the question. So yes, it's a common problem, not only among adolescents, but also among adult women who don't want to take the iron folic acid tablet, mainly due to the side effects, or just because they don't feel that they need them. And so the messages that we try to give in terms of taking the tablets is the importance of those tablets for people's health, for their energy, for their babies if they're pregnant, and also for them to go through delivery in a way that is healthy. One of the biggest risks of being anemic when you deliver a baby is if you have excessive blood loss and you're already anemic, you're at a very high chance of dying from childbirth. And so taking these tablets can help prevent the death during delivery. And for a more minor issue, it can also help to improve people's energy. It can help improve their health, and it can help improve their ability to concentrate and think and process information. So especially when you're in school, if you're anemic, it will make it harder for you to learn. And so by taking the iron folic tablets, especially if you're anemic, it should help you in terms of concentration and processing information. So some of the key things to pass on to people are the importance of iron folic acid for energy, for concentration and processing information, especially when you're trying to learn new things. And if you're trying to do physical activities, it can also help you accomplish those physical activities, whether it's sport or productive activities like agriculture, working in the field. And it can also help you prevent getting sick or dying, especially during pregnancy and childbirth. So those are the important messages to pass on as to why adolescent girls should be taking their iron folic acid tablets, and that hopefully those benefits outweigh the negative effects that they may experience, such as nausea or upset stomach or problems with going to the bathroom. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Diana, thank you very much.
Hi, May I just want to add one more thing?
Okay, please go
quickly.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
okay.
some of the research have actually highlighted that the most common cause of this poor compliance was reported as forgetfulness. Just adolescents just to forget that to take the tablets. So these can be somewhat alleviated to some extent by creating and promoting a fixed IFA supplementation day, like nationwide or community-wide, and emphasizing the positive benefits of iron supplements, like Deanna suggested, like emphasizing those points through a better targeted communication strategy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Diana and Ara. And we will move in to the next session because we are nearly at the end of the session. And before we go to the closing, I would like to ask Ibu Dian Dipo to convey your closing statement, and then follow with Pak Joni, Ibu Isman, and then IFPRI. Ibu Dian, you have 2 minutes to convey your closing statement, please. Hello. Halo? Halo, Bu? Halo? Okay, maybe while we wait for Ibu Dian to prepare, we will move first to Pak Joni to give us your closing statement, Pak. 2 minutes, please, Pak.
Halo.
Halo, Pak. Ya, silakan Pak, 2 menit closing statement-nya.
Ya, baik. Terima kasih Ibu Mei. Yang pertama saya mengucapkan terima kasih untuk kajian ini. NTT dilibatkan tentu untuk selain memberi masukan, kita diberikan wacana baru tentang bagaimana menangani masalah stunting dikaitkan dengan aspek gizi dan pangan pada sasaran kita adalah remaja. Yang kedua, saya ingin mengajak teman-teman mungkin perlu ada penelitian khusus untuk wilayah kami NTT yang kita kepulauan, seperti tadi disampaikan sangat beragam. Wilayah Flores berbeda, Flores Tengah, Flores Timur, Flores Barat berbeda. Di wilayah Timur berbeda, budaya, iklim, dan lain sebagainya berbeda. Aspek ini mungkin perlu dikaji lebih dalam. Saya mengajak teman-teman dari IFPRI karena kalau di pemerintahan kegiatan kajian seperti ini tidak terlalu menarik untuk dilakukan. Pemerintah lebih banyak ke aksi-aksi yang lebih bersifat langsung, sehingga dukungan dari lembaga-lembaga ini dalam kolaborasi untuk penanganan stunting di NTT tentu akan sangat baik. Yang kedua, saya juga ingin kita sama-sama, tadi kita sudah bilang bahwa promosi menjadi sangat penting. Secara langsung Indonesia promosi di televisi, bahkan media-media mainstream itu sangat berpengaruh terhadap kondisi sampai di pelosok-pelosok. Mungkin sesuatu waktu kita perlu punya lembaga yang sensor untuk promosi pangan ini. Ada banyak promosi yang tidak dalam kondisi yang sebenarnya, dan itu menjadi konsumsi orang di desa. Kalau pemerintah di tingkat nasional yang punya peran penting untuk ini maka kita akan selesai. Kalau penduduk di desa itu pendidikannya masih rendah dan kita berikan input informasi lewat media ini tidak dengan baik, tersaring dengan baik, selesailah kita. Setiap usaha kita tentu akan membutuhkan energi yang lebih besar. Saya pikir itu saja masukan terakhir saya sekaligus closing statement. Terima kasih Ibu Mei.
Thank you, Pak Joni from Bapeda Provinsi NTT. Now we will hand over to Ibu Dian Dipo to deliver your closing statement. Bu Dian, please.
Oke, terima kasih Bu Mei. Jadi saya menekankan sekali lagi di sini bahwa pengembangan strategi untuk kesehatan, terutama status gizi remaja, itu masih menjadi prioritas kita dan kita terus mengembangkan. Sekali lagi terima kasih juga, apresiasi untuk para peneliti yang telah memberikan masukannya, analisisnya, sehingga juga mempermudah kita di dalam pengembangan ini. Mungkin nanti kalau memang kita perlukan bisa kita buat kerjasama yang lebih baik lagi. Mendengarkankah? Terdengarkah?
Terdengar, Bu.
Oke.
Terdengar, Bu.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih. Jadi sekali lagi memang selain kita kembangkan strategi, kita juga mempererat kerjasama multisektor karena memang untuk remaja di sekolah kita pasti bekerja sama dengan Kementerian Pendidikan dan Kebudayaan. Sementara untuk di luar sekolah kita pasti harus bekerja sama dengan organisasi-organisasi yang ada di masyarakat. Sehingga penguatan kelompok masyarakat ini menjadi sangat penting untuk kemudian bisa menjangkau sasaran remaja, terutama remaja yang menjadi sasaran kita kali ini. Demikian, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you so much, Ibu Dian, for your closing statement and for your time to join with us today. Next, we will move to Diana and Ara from IFPRI to give your closing statement for us, please.
May I'll give the closing statement from the IFPRI side.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for taking your time to join the seminar today, and thank you SNB for giving us this great opportunity to present this review. I just want to quickly highlight 3 things in addition to all the recommendations and suggestions discussed. I really think that raising awareness, building capacity, and multi-sectoral collaboration among the policymakers and program implementers about the importance of the adolescent nutrition is really important. And finally, this might be my 4th point, we need a socially inclusive strategy considering all these dimensions like disability and gender. I really appreciate SNB bringing this topic during the seminar, and I believe starting this conversation, like the seminar should be a really important first step. And SNB has been a leading NGO that advocates for inclusion and equality in development sectors. So this topic of adolescent nutrition and the intersection with the gender and disability and other social dimensions may be something that all of us, including SNB, can pay more attention to down the road. Thank you so much.
Hello?
Hello? Were you able to hear me? Hello?
Okay, I think May also has an internet problem, so
Okay.
due to the instability of the signal. So I would like to invite for Buisman to have a closing statement. Hello, Buisman. Okay.
Yes, I'm unmuted. I also want to thank everyone for being here today. That's such a large crowd today, which really shows that it is all of you think this is a very critical and important topic. And moreover, it's a great momentum we have because we have a government who is prioritizing this up until the presidential decree. Yeah. So this also shows that we can do this together. And that is my main message to all of you, that, you know, we are in this together. We need to jalan bersama, yeah, to be able to really tackle the issue of malnutrition and particularly stunting in NTT and NTB and other locations that you have mentioned today, where it's critical. Because we are not there yet. Yes, we have made an improvement. We see over the last 5 years that we've been working on this topic together with government and with our civil society partners. but unfortunately, we are not there yet. And I think that today we have learned that it's not only about reaching those first 1,000 days of a child's life, but that we need to focus on the adolescent and on the youth. So I also have actually 4 main key messages I want to bring to you. One is that we need to think about not only doing the vertical learning, because right now what we have been doing is working in NTT and NTB and Sumatra in different locations at the local, really at the grassroots level, all the way up to the province, up to the national level. But the learning has to be horizontal as well. And this is where we come in through this webinar, because we need to also share the lessons learned from NTT with NTB, because we all know that Indonesia is very rich in its diversity. Almost every island is different, which means that we have to share the lessons learned across each other, because we cannot only do it from top down or bottom up. Yeah, it needs to also be the horizontal that can make the change. Now we have very strong communities that are set up. You know them well. We have at the community level, we have very strong groups. We have our civil society partners, the 9 partners that we work with, and SMV that can support you in the cross learning and the collaboration amongst each other. And we are here to support you there. Now, secondly, I think is also mentioned, but the inclusiveness is really key here. There are a lot of multi-stakeholders, but if we don't do it in an inclusive way, we will not reach out to those that need it the most and that are the most vulnerable. And thank you for voicing your concerns. Some of you here also today, I really appreciate that you let your voices heard. And with the voices that you let heard, again, I want to stimulate to join the movement. Yeah, please don't join the Millennials Voice Partnership movement, so that we can really, jointly do this in a journey where we are more inclusive, and we take on board all the vulnerable group, including what was mentioned on, the gender aspects of this of the malnutrition issue. Third and not least is that we need to really think also, how do we back up the policy with the budgeting efforts? We are always in a 5-year cycle where we do the planning with the government. The government has a 5-year planning, and as civil society organization, as an international organization, we are supporting those cycles, but we need to make sure that the policy is backed up also with the funding. We have done some really exciting initiatives in NTT and NTB, where we have supported government with the budget tracking to make sure that the policy is backed up by the budgeting to be able to reach those vulnerable groups when it relates to stunting and malnutrition. So I think that those are the main concerns. The millennial voice is really important there. But we also need the researchers, we need all the different stakeholders to come together, including the private sector. They have an important role that they can play in order to tackle the issue of malnutrition and stunting, especially amongst adolescents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bu Ismen, for your closing statement, and thank you so much for Ibu Dian, Pak Joni, and Ara and Diana for joining our international webinar today. It's been very great, and our participants are very enthusiastic. We have like 500 participants inactive in Zoom, and also lots of participants live streaming in YouTube. And we have actually 1,000 registrants, people who registered in the forum, and a half in here in Zoom and a half in YouTube live streaming. So thank you so much for all the audience who joined us today with the outstanding speakers and also responders from IFPRI, from Bapeda NTT, from SNV, and also Bu Dian as the Director of Nutrition Community and Ministry of Health, Republic of Indonesia. And before I close for this webinar today, I have a little bit announcement. And I would like to congratulate for the best participants who have the best questions. And the winner goes to Rosalind Fangi from FH Undana NTT. Hello, Rosalind Fangi. So you are the best questions for today's international webinar on adolescent nutrition. For the door prize, you will get a Millennials Voice tumbler. It is actually a really cool tumbler for hot and cold beverages as well. And then the door prize will be sent to you by post. So we will contact you by email for that. And also for all the participants who have not gotten the opportunity to be the best questions today, don't be sad, because we still have 2 door prizes to get, and you only have to follow Millennials Voice Instagram, and also SNV Indonesia at SNV Indonesia in Twitter. So follow us on the social media, and also posting or also story and mention us, and then you will get the Millennials Voice number, as you can see on the screen a few seconds ago. And for the certificates, we will distribute all the certificates for all the participants in Zoom only, who participate minimal 30 minutes in Zoom. So participants who participated less than 30 minutes will not get the certificates. And also make sure you write your complete name here. So if you haven't renamed, please do so right now, because everything will be goes to the data in Zoom, and we only refer to the Zoom data. So please do write your complete name and then correctly. And also we would like to remind you that we will have lots of millennials and youth events this month in June. Millennials Voice movement, and also mission Millennial Scientists for Nutrition in West Nusa Tenggara, but it's actually a national event, so feel free to join us. And also Amunisi, Anak Muda Peduli Nutrisi in Kupang, but in Timor Island, and also grow your own local food in East Flores. And by Transform also Summit-on, it's like a social entrepreneur hackathon for food and nutrition security. So please stay tuned in our social media to get all of the information for the events and also our upcoming webinars. So thank you all today. Thank you for all the speakers and also the responders. And we will see you soon again. And thank you. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy as always.